Welcome to Anchored and Sent. I'm Ken, and let's talk about where God shows up in our everyday life. I figured the best way to start this podcast is a story about a guitar. See, when I was growing up, my dad, he wanted me to learn how to play the piano. And I mean, it made sense, right? I mean, my dad is both a pianist and an organist. And he sold it to me by telling me that if I learned how to play the piano, that I could learn any instrument that I wanted. So I was like, well, that sounds great, Dad. I mean, if I can learn how to play the piano, well, that means I'm going to be able to learn how to play the drums. So I started lessons with a really sweet elderly lady who was patient and she was kind until she wasn't. I mean, I had to sit proper. I had to make sure my wrists were like bent at the right position. And get this, she even gave me homework. I mean, how dare her to give me homework? And here's the problem when I was starting these lessons. I was a teenager in the 90s. So after about 3 months of scales, finger exercises, and learning where all the keys were, and playing hot cross buns a million times, all I could think about was playing the electric guitar. And hey, at least by that point, I did realize that playing piano wasn't going to help me much with the drums, right? But every practice, all I could do was imagine being like Gavin Rossdale from Bush and playing on stage with a band with an electric guitar. So like any responsible teenager would do in this situation, I quit the piano and I went and purchased a guitar. So next I grew out my hair. I even figured out a way to put bleach streaks in my hair. I learned a few bar chords. I bought a gain pedal and turned everything up as loud as possible. And I spent hours trying to figure out songs just by listening to them on the radio. You know, and looking back, this is probably the reason why I have permanent ringing in my ears and permanent baldness. But anyways, a couple of friends of mine, we even decided to get together and start a garage band. And when I mean garage band, I mean, a group of teenagers who were completely convinced that we were going to be famous. I mean, we had confidence, we had loud enough volume, we had our dreams, and we spent countless hours playing music and talking about, the day that we were going to make it big. And I think the biggest gig we ever got to play was at a skating ring of all things. And that same gig, my cousin actually twisted her ankle pretty bad, and she was on the ground screaming in agony. But guess what? Not a single person could hear to help her because, man, we were jamming out. We had the volume cranked up, right? And so after that, life moves on. School happens, work happens, marriage, kids. And during all that time, guess what happened to that guitar? Well, it lived underneath my bed or in the closet, right? Untouched. But then something happened that 16-year-old Ken never saw coming. At 46 years old, I decided I wanted to learn acoustic guitar. Now, if you would have told teenage me that one day I'd trade in an electric guitar, a gain pedal, hearing loss, and my hair loss for an acoustic guitar to lead worship music, I would have laughed right and you out of the room. I would have been like, what are you talking about? You see, at 16, I wanted to be a rock star. But at 46, I wanted to lead worship. I wanted to lead vacation Bible school. I want to play at youth camps and be able to sit in a hospital and pray with someone and maybe play a hymn that just brings them comfort and encouragement, right? I wanted another way to serve people and share the love of Christ. I realized that God had taken an interest that I developed as a teenager and was using it for something I never could have imagined. And the thing is, the guitar is not what really changed. that I changed. And maybe a better way to say it is that God had been changing me all along. You see, the kid who wanted to stand on a stage and be noticed had become a man who wanted to use the same instrument to point people towards Jesus. And I'll be honest, I never saw that coming. So I started learning acoustic guitar, and I quickly discovered that being able to play a few power chords in the 90s did not exactly prepare me for worship music. Thank goodness I have a friend and a brother in Christ named Derek Thibodeau who offered to give me free lessons because he knew that it was going to help me in ministry. Man, we're so blessed to have friends like that, aren't we? So he taught me some new chords, some technique, and of course I learned some new frustrations at 46. And there were moments when I wondered about just giving up because I was just, 20 years too late, right? But eventually, little by little, things started coming together. One chord became two, two became three. Songs slowly started sounding like songs. By the way, I'm still learning to play guitar. I'm absolutely loving it. But all this reminds me of following Jesus. Most of us want things to happen instantly in our life. We want stronger faith. We want more patience. We want more wisdom. We want to become the person God is calling us to be, and we want to do it as fast as possible. But here's the thing, friends. It doesn't happen that way. I've learned over the years that growth happens one day at a time, one lesson at a time, one conversation at a time, one act of faithfulness at a time. It even shows when you start showing kindness to somebody each day, going out of the way and just showing someone kindness. And most of the meaningful things God does in our lives, they happen gradually. We don't always notice them while they're happening, right? But then one day we look back and we realize we've come farther than we thought. That's really why I started this podcast, because all of us have experiences like that. Maybe it's something that happens at work, or maybe it's a conversation we have with a friend. Maybe it's raising kids. Maybe it's serving in the community. Maybe it's learning something new. If we're paying attention, those experiences often teach us something about ourselves, something about others, and something about God. Friends, that's what Anchored and Sent is all about. Every week, I'll share a story, an experience, or a lesson from everyday life. And together, we're going to explore what it might teach us about following Jesus in everyday life. And friends, I found that God is teaching us. He's teaching us things when we're not even looking for a lesson. And sometimes those lessons come through an old guitar that gets pulled out of a closet years after we thought we would never do again. Friends, until next time, stay anchored in Christ and look for where God is showing up.